As a male member of the human species who was emotionally numb for 2 decades of my life, I heard "you're cold-hearted" so many times, I started believing I was broken. If you face that as well, I want you to know that you are not cold-hearted. It's only a protection mechanism that you're stuck in, which you can get out of once you understand it. So in this video, I want to talk about the root cause of why men stop feeling, which I learned after 6 years of researching emotions, applying everything to myself and my clients. I've also made a free quiz that helps you understand the cause of this numbness further. I'll put it in the description below, do check it out. Let's start from the very basics. Around 5 years ago, I was riding my scooty with my friend sitting behind me. We were chatting, having fun, and suddenly we hit a pothole on the road, which I didn't see because it was covered by water. As soon as I hit the pothole, both of us fell and I incurred this injury here. What's interesting is that for 10-15 minutes, I didn't even notice this injury. And even when I did see it, it didn't hurt at all. So I basically avoided it and focused on taking care of the situation. But the scar actually was deep enough for it to pain and trouble me for 2 weeks and last on my body for the rest of my life. So what happened here? Why didn't I feel any pain the moments following my mini accident? The reason for that is my brain released certain chemicals which numbed the intense pain in my elbow. This is an evolutionary mechanism that helped our ancestors reach safety when they got hurt while running away from a tiger. It is helpful and it protects us till date, just like it protected me from pain until I could be safe after falling. But what does that have to do with us men feeling emotionally numb or feeling nothing? The same way our bodies have a mechanism to protect us from overwhelming physical pain, it also has a mechanism to protect us from overwhelming emotional pain. And it does that through the nervous system. Let me explain. Your nervous system has 3 modes, if you will. You might have heard of them, but not in the context of numbness. Let me take you back to our ancestors for a moment. When they were with their friends and families enjoying and dancing around the fire, they were in the state of rest and digest. That is where their nervous system is calm, digests food, and repairs the body from any injuries or sickness. If they were out hunting or running away from a tiger, that is where they were in fight and flight. This is when their nervous system gears up like a car, accelerating to give them energy in order to hunt or run away. The third and less talked about mode is the freeze and shut down mode. So let's say the tiger got a hold of one of our ancestors, Bunty. His nervous system will freeze and he won't be able to move at all. Just like this deer who looks like it's dead, but when gets the chance, immediately gets up and runs away. In the freeze mode, the nervous system saps you of all energy, lowers down your blood pressure, your breathing is virtually non-existent, so it's very shallow, and you don't feel anything. All of this is important to keep you absolutely still and make it look like you're dead to the predator. Can you personally think of a time when you froze and didn't move at all? Maybe it was when you were crossing the road and a bike crossed you by really fast and you just went stiff. That was your freeze response. Now, even though the freeze mode doesn't feel the best in the moment, just like the injury, numbness is also a helpful mechanism. The problem comes in when it becomes chronic and your default mode. Chronic freeze or shutdown in men looks like, first and foremost, emotional numbness. I remember not feeling very excited 6 years ago, but I also wasn't very hurt, sad, or angry a lot. It was basically flatness and not that much emotions. I see emotions like a pendulum, and chronic freeze leads to limiting the range of my emotional pendulum on both pleasant and unpleasant end, making me feel numb. It also led me to feel lethargic and unmotivated all the time, feeling dissociated, like I am living on autopilot and I had no purpose in life. But if numbness is caused by a nervous system stuck in chronic freeze, the real question becomes, what is it that causes your nervous system to get stuck in freeze? Now we really reach the very roots of your numbness. I'm going to say something that I'm certain you're going to reject initially, but if you keep an open mind and hear me out, you'll understand your numbness 100%. I know this because I would have disagreed to this 6 years ago. After researching the nervous system for hours and hours, I discovered that whatever nervous system mode gets activated the most during your childhood is what becomes your default. So if you felt safe, protected, and in rest and digest mode all the time, most of the time, you would feel safe and experience the full range of emotions on the pendulum, both the unpleasant and pleasant. If you felt unsafe or like you're in danger most of the time, in fight and flight, then you would mostly feel stressed, afraid, or angry. But if you felt like you're in life-threatening danger most of the time, then you would mostly feel nothing, along with, of course, the other symptoms of chronic freeze. Because remember, life-threatening danger is only what switches on the mode of chronic nervous system freeze. Now, the most common objection I get when I share this with my clients is, this is not possible. I had a pretty normal childhood. Why am I still numb? The other day I was sitting on a bench with my friend, and at the same time a man crossed us on the scooty with his children. And we heard him say to his 4 or 5-year-old son, if you don't behave, I'll leave you here. My friend laughed at that, but because I've studied childhood trauma for over half a decade, I was saddened by it. I shared with her how the boy's nervous system would have literally experienced that statement as a death threat. Because think about it. How long do you think a 4-year-old boy survives if he's left alone without someone who loves and takes care of him? What is perceived as life-threatening danger by your nervous system is very subjective. For me, at 24, it would be a gun held to my head. But a 3-year-old boy hearing, I'll leave you alone, from his father is abandonment, which is perceived as death. These repeated death threats, which can range from tiny disapproving looks at certain behaviors to blatant abuse, is what causes your nervous system to get stuck in chronic freeze and in return feel emotionally numb. But that's only half the equation. Here's where things get very interesting and super subtle. Some 3 years ago, I was reading the book Running on Empty, and the author said something that was very validating to my own experience with myself and my clients. You can have parents who love you more than the world, who never laid a hand on you, and you can still end up being emotionally numb. Here's how. A while ago, I visited my nephew. We played a lot together, had a fun time, but when I was leaving, he got very sad and we could all see that he was about to cry. So his father, my cousin brother, in the most loving tone possible, told him, "Beta, you shouldn't cry, let Fussy go." Now, even though nothing about what my brother said or did was traumatic, what message do you think my nephew subconsciously got? Probably something along the lines of feeling sorrow is not good for me as a boy. If I feel and express this, my father doesn't like me, so I should push it down at all cost. We all know that when physical needs of children are not met, like food and safety, they suffer. But similarly, when a child's emotional needs are not met, they also suffer. So what are these emotional needs? I can literally talk about this for an hour, but I won't go into it in super detail, at least in this video. There are essentially 4 non-negotiable psychological needs that every human child has. I learned these from Dr. Gabor Mate. The quiz covers all of these with concrete examples. The first and the most important one is attachment to an adult who loves and cares for you. This is a pretty obvious one because infants don't survive a day without someone to take care of them. The next one is attachment security. The attachment has to be secure and not with conditions applied. If you were only loved by your parents when you were nice and polite and were disapproved when you were impolite and naughty, that is insecure attachment. The third one is permission to feel all your emotions, especially the negative ones like fear, anger, shame, sadness, etc. And finally, free play. All mammals need to play in order for their brain and psychology to develop. In the example of my nephew, his need to feel and express his sorrow was unmet. And if that need is violated repeatedly, which often happens with boys, they are specifically told not to be scared, not to be ashamed, not to cry like girls. He would end up not being able to cry as a man or feel other negative emotions, and as a result, limit his range of emotional pendulum, that is, end up feeling empty and numb. So to summarize, emotional numbness has 3 primary causes. The first one is chronic nervous system freeze. The second one is repeated life-threatening danger, which is very subjective and easy to experience for a child, at least in modern society. And finally, neglected emotional needs in childhood. But the good news is, because it's something that happened to you and not who you are, it can also be undone. I am a proof of that. So click here to watch this video next, where I share the most powerful breathing technique to heal your nervous system from chronic freeze.